Essay 12. The Process of Re-Embodiment by Prentice Mulford. The fact that one person may gain such a mesmeric control of another as entirely to absorb that other's identity, and to make the individual operated on for a time subject to the will of the operator, seeing exactly as the operator desires him to see, tasting as he would have him taste, and being in imagination whatever he desires him to be, is a clue and cornerstone in getting at the mystery of reincarnation, whereby a spirit is ushered into another life on earth in entire forgetfulness of its past existence or identity, even as the subject under control of the mesmerizer is for a period entirely oblivious of his own individual self and existence. A mortal may mesmerize a spirit, and this may be done unconsciously. A woman, before and after conception, may dwell in thought much upon some real or ideal character, and this may attract to her that very character in spirit life. There are no ideals in the worldly sense. The ideal in thought represents some living type in the spirit. The highest character which you are capable of conceiving has a representative in spirit, and your present highest conception may be relatively imperfect. Hence your hero, your ideal, the actual reality in spirit life attracted to you, may still be incomplete, your incompleteness blinding you to his defects. Such a spirit may be attracted to a woman before her child is born. It may be the spirit of someone who was very prominent in an earth life. It may have been a poet, a philosopher, a warrior, a statesman, a great artist. That spirit may be very unhappy. It may be seeking rest and finding none. It may, through its imperfectness, be unable to come near those very dear to it in the life of its former body. On earth, spirits of the body may come apparently in close association. Much, then, may be inflicted by one and endured by the other. One side of a husband's nature may be harsh, unfeeling, inconsiderate, and tyrannical, when the wife is always gentle, considerate, and uncomplaining. In spirit life, they cannot again unite until the defects on one side or the other have been cured. Spirits cannot come into close and permanent association unless their relationship be real. It cannot be assumed. The woman so dwelling much in thought on some person in spirit life attracts that spirit and gives to it the only rest it can find. You will here naturally love to be where you are much admired and made to feel at home. It is precisely the same with the spirit. When you entertain some spirit in the thought of appreciation and admiration, when you read of their lives, or dwell on their deeds or utterances, and are thrilled by them, you are often thrilled by the presence of that very spirit. Because, as you have sent out your thought or spirit to him, he sends his in return, responsive to yours, and in proportion to the intensity of your admiration will be the concentration of that spirit upon yours and the nearness of his presence. The spirit in question, so attracted to the woman at the period of which we speak, and able to find no other rest, may at last, through such concentration of interest, be absolutely, though unconsciously, mesmerized by her. He attaches himself permanently to her and is unable to leave her. He comes at last to see through her eyes and hear through her ears. His opinions are swayed and tinged by her opinions more and more, until at last he ceases to have any of his own. The condition of mind so thrown upon the spirit may be seen all about us in greater or less degree. Thousands lose more or less of their individuality through the influence of others. Unconsciously, they think another's thoughts, hold another's opinion, see with another's eyes. Mesmeric control means only thought control. To be much with another person, to have little other association, to be dependent for one's happiness entirely on one association, involves the danger of the mesmeric on thought control of that person. In other words, of thinking their thoughts and holding their opinions instead of your own. Such control may be held unconsciously by the other, or it may be held consciously. It is to be guarded against by variety of association and periods of solitude, whereby we may find our real selves. So, absorbed in the woman, the spirit's mind drifts towards what most occupies her attention. That naturally would be the child she is to bring into the world, or, in other words, the new organization forming within her. He becomes attached to it by a spiritual link. In effect, the woman has unconsciously gained a total mesmeric control of the spirit. She has sent that spirit into a mesmeric sleep or state. In such state, the spirit has already forgotten self and the past existence. He is in a sense but a part of the woman doing and thinking as she wills. He is then linked by a spiritual tie to the child, because the woman's aspiration may be for a child like her ideal, the steady flow of thought and such desire forming this spiritual link. A flow of thought means a flow of substance, as real as any we see and feel. A flow of thought between you and another person is an unseen link between you and that other person, no matter how far distant are your bodies. The child body is then born with an actually mesmerized spirit linked to it, not that the spirit is within the child's body. No spirit is actually enclosed in any human body. Its nucleus is there, but a spirit is an organization which reaches far out from the body. A spirit is wherever it sends its thought. Send all your thought and reverie to any place, and most of your real self will be in that place. The body is an organization distinct and apart from the spirit. It is simply the instrument used by the spirit in the earthly state of existence. Being in an earth life, the spirit needs an instrument of earth in order to adapt itself to the requirements of the earth life. As when you go down in a coal mine, you need a miner's coarse suit of clothes for use in the mine, rather than satin or broadcloth. In this sense, the body is a protection to the spirit in its earth life, and spirits who lose their bodies before reaching a certain stage of knowledge and consequent power feel and suffer much from such loss, because the spiritual body or spirit, obliged by reason of its immaturity to remain on the earth, as very many are obliged to remain, may feel and suffer intensely from the thought of the mortals about it. It is sensitive to a degree which can hardly be realized here. Any person exceedingly impressionable, and so made to feel pleasant or unpleasant by the presence of others, according to their nature or disposition, may comprehend to some extent how weak spirits, drawn by an attraction which they cannot resist towards certain people, may be made to suffer. The body with all its ailments, resulting through ignorance of spiritual law, is still a protection to our immature spirit against the power of evil thought. It is simply, then, a new body for the spirit's use that is furnished by the mother. Yet this body has a certain life of its own. It is analogous to the life of a plant. Like a tree, it has its youth, its maturity, and its decay. Were the spirit possessed of sufficient knowledge, it could arrest this decay and keep its instruments so long as it desired, not only in a condition of maturity but of ever-increasing vigor. It would do this by sending itself, that is, its thought, into the higher spirit life, and, through such line or ray of thought as a connecting link, draw to itself supplies of the life-giving element belonging to that region of spirit. One name for this process is aspiration. In other words, it is the desire or prayer or demand for the highest and best. This mental action is as much based on a scientific law as is the attraction of gravitation. It is the actual sending of a part of our real being, the spirit, to a place from whence it draws fresh supplies of life. The thought which we so send upward is as much a real thing, though invisible, as a telegraph wire, and, like a telegraph wire, it is an actual conductor of life to us. It is also the wire sending us messages and knowledge of methods for increasing such life and power. The spirit so linked to a new body is not a new being. It is the same spirit having a new instrument to work through, but it is still a spirit, in a sense, asleep. The thought power of the mother still remains upon it after the new body comes into the world, for it is influenced by all the mother's thought and her errors in thought, and by the errors and ignorance in thought of all about it. It is still a spirit under the mesmeric influence of the operator or operators, these being the mother and those in close association with her. The mesmeric or the power of several, focused on one person, is proportionately greater than that of one mind. All this is brought to bear on the spirit. It may, in its last body, have been a Catholic, a Jew, a Mohammedan. But if the mother and those about it be Protestants, it may now be Protestant, simply because the thought of all about it influences it to such belief. While the body is very young, the spirit can make but little use of it. In the year-old babe, it is in effect but a fragment of the old spirit that animates the new body. When it cries for food, or is annoyed by reason of any discomfort, it is as if you pinched or pricked the body of a full-grown person during sleep. There is just enough animation or spirit left in the sleeper's body to protest with a cry or a movement akin to that of the child. Because, in reality, during sound, healthy sleep, your spirit, your real self, is not with your body. It is abroad, roaming about, seeing other spirits in other places, and only connected with the body by a link. The spirit linked to the new body during the period called childhood is still mesmerized. It is not its real self. It cannot, to any extent, take advantage of its past experience that is eclipsed by the wills of the operators. If it be a strongly marked spirit, and one having passed through many previous re-embodiments, it will, as it grows up, and comes more and more under the influence of other minds, begin gradually to show something of its real self. It will internally protest and antagonize against much of the opinion about it. It will have 1,000 thoughts, which it soon learns not to express to others, because they will be termed wild and visionary. They are indeed visionary, but they are real visions. They are the promptings of the soul. They are the reachings out of the real self, the spirit, towards what is indeed true, despite the hamperings of the thought influence about it. The new body given it may be an imperfect one. As the seeds of stunted plants produce other plants inferior in quality, so are bodies brought forth imperfect. The thought influence of those about it may aggravate such physical imperfection. That is, if the parents are always thinking disease, they show disease in the child. A mother dwelling on her complaints bequeaths those ailments to her child. The spirit is often actually mesmerized into the belief that it has a weak stomach or weak lungs. The parent who dwells ever in the desire for alcohol will, in this way, bequeath the appetite for liquor to the child, though he may not drink a drop. This is the real cause of what are termed inherited diseases. They are not inheritances of the body. They are inheritances of the predominant thought of those most about it while young. Did the parents, though afflicted themselves with diseases, think health and combat the tendency to think of their ailments, they would gradually cure themselves and bequeath health to their children, despite the infant's physical imperfection at birth, which is also a result thrown on it by the mother's thought, or the thought of those about it. So the spirit, thus furnished with a new body, may come again into the world to run its race, weighed down from the start with a new load of error, not in a sense its real self, asleep and insensible of the powers which it may have used and proven for itself in a recently past existence, doomed to an enslavement of surrounding thought influence, habituated for years to such influence, till such habit chains it to a rut of thought, taught that it is nothing but the body which it uses, educated to deride nearly all spiritual power and spirit itself as nonsense, cursed with appetites, possibly thrown upon it by the minds of others, in the manner stated above. The spirit and genius of a Napoleon, a Byron, or a Shakespeare may be dragged about by a wretched body, diseased and dissipated. A vagabond, living in what is literally a wretched dream. This dream may continue through successive re-embodiments, unless it can be brought under the influence of some thought which knows the truth. Even then the awakening to know and realize that truth may be difficult, so vast and complicated is the process of de-education to be undergone. So many are the false ideas which it holds. So great is the tendency, in all it thinks, to think away from the truth. So strong is the power of all the thought about it to put it in the wrong current of thought. So little does it know of the real laws and forces in nature. So incredulous must it naturally be of the truths which we here attempt to tell. So absolutely fabulous to it must seem the fact that what it has deemed its real self is not its real self, any more than your amputated arm would be yourself. End of essay.